Hello, welcome back to the Living Process. I'm Greg Madison, and this time my guest is Julie Friedeberger. Uh, Julie has a very unique story to tell. She knew Gene Gendlin way back in the counseling center years and is able to tell a little bit of what that was like. She was involved in transcribing some of the audio tapes from the research they were doing. She also was one of the participants as a client, and that made her interested in client-centered therapy. But when she got to the university, the introductory psychology course was so horrific that it turned her off. And she tells her story about that and how she took a very different way through life, um, meeting her long-term wonderful husband living in London, becoming very involved in yoga and publishing and writing about yoga, and then her journey through breast cancer and then caring for her husband as he died. It was after that that she got back introduced to focusing and rediscovered what Gendlin had been doing all those years ago, um, and now has focusing sessions and also is becoming potentially a focusing teacher. So I hope you really enjoy this episode. It was lovely to speak with her, and it seemed significant to be able to have this talk with her before the conference in Vienna where we're celebrating Gene. I also want to just mention that she is incredibly full of life, very youthful, and obviously doing something right. Hello, welcome back to the Living Process, and I'm very happy to say that the guest today is Julie Friedeberger. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Greg.
Yes, and it's a very warm bank holiday here in the UK. Yeah, so we'll see how we go.
How are you doing with the heat?
Well, I have a mixed response. I like the heat. I like it when the outside and the inside seem more seamless. But it does affect me. I get hay fever as well. So
Me too.
yeah, do you? Okay.
I can be 10 feet away from the sea. Um, oh, I will, but I'm okay.
Okay, good. Um, so I like to begin just by asking how you found focusing, which might be an unusual story for you, because I think you found it fairly recently, though you knew Gene many years ago.
That's right. That's right. Um, I knew Gene when I worked at the counseling center in Chicago
Mhm.
in 1959, 1960, but that isn't where my journey to focusing began. It began in my childhood, I think. I think really I've been heading towards it all my life. Um, Through my writing and meditation, which has always been a way of getting into how I felt about things.
Mhm.
I grew up in a family that didn't tolerate feelings. My mother was afraid of them. She was the child of Jewish refugees from the pogroms in Russia in the early part of the 20th century. And she was a baby when she arrived in the States in 1906. But I think my sense is that she absorbed her parents' experiences and their fears. And she grew up a frightened person, and she couldn't acknowledge my feelings. She just dismissed them so that they wouldn't trouble her. And I grew up not trusting my feelings and not knowing what I felt
Mhm.
ever at anything. And I somehow understood that that wasn't a good way to be. So I began writing when I was 13 or 14 as a way of looking into myself and finding out what I felt and what I thought. And in a way, that now seems to me a bit like focusing because it is a way of getting inside. It's much more labor intensive than focusing. And it's more error prone. I can so easily write my way into great insights that turn out not to be so great after all, or write a story that isn't a true story.
Mhm.
But I try to keep going until I get to something that gets beyond the story and to what's there. So that was the beginning. And then, well, I left home when I was 17. I went to college in Ohio. And then I moved to Chicago and worked at the counseling center in 1959, 1960. And the research at the time was the Change Project,
Mhm.
out of the results of which Gene eventually developed focusing. I didn't know him well, but I liked him enormously. And I have very, very clear recollections of him, especially of his eyes,
Mm.
were serious and searching and curious
Mhm.
and so clear and so intelligent. And you can see them in that photo of him as a baby with his father. They were there already.
Mhm.
And I never forgot them. And
Mhm.
after I rediscovered him last year, and I read Focusing Oriented Psychotherapy, um, I read that part in which he describes how he prepares for a client,
Mhm.
clears away everything that might get in the way of engaging with the client. And then he says, and then the client can look into my eyes and find me.
Mhm.
And that was how he was. I mean, if you were with him, you had his attention.
Mhm.
He he was interested. He really
Yeah.
liked them. He was interested in them. And everybody liked and respected him. I mean,
Can,
he
can-
was charismatic and brilliant, and
yeah.
everybody felt that.
I want to pick up, especially on the beginning. It's like as a child, you had this experiencing that didn't have a place in your home. Your mother didn't necessarily evoke it and entertain it and welcome it.
That's right.
Um, but you didn't give up on it for some reason. It's not like her not being able to go there didn't signal to you that you shouldn't go there. You retained some interest in it.
I never defended my feelings. I mean, I would tell her that I felt something about something, and she would say, "No, you don't. You don't feel like that." Um,
Mm.
if I was upset about something, she would just tell me not to be. But I knew that wasn't right. I mean, I quieted down and I didn't fight it, but I knew that wasn't it wasn't a good way to be.
Yeah.
Um, so I found a way.
Yeah. I find that fascinating
Yeah,
that something in you knew not to just accept that.
I think on the surface I did accept it
Mhm.
because I never challenged her.
Yeah.
I mean, I've discussed this with people, friends who have had similar experiences with mothers who didn't. You know, it's not that rare.
Mhm.
But one friend I was talking to recently said, "Well, I just said that's the way I feel, and you can't take that away from me. It's my feeling." I never did that. Um, I couldn't. I mean, I think they call it introjected shame now. I just swallowed it and digested it,
Mhm.
and never kicked back. It was there. I mean, I wanted to. I knew that I wasn't in touch with my feelings, and I wanted to be.
Mhm.
And so I found a way of doing it in early adolescence.
Mhm. It's fascinating.
Mm.
And then when you left home, you ended up in this, probably one of the few places in the world at that time that was dedicated to this kind of discovery of the person from the inside. So I would love to hear, then we can follow your story more into the present, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you got into that job and what it was like day to day and any interactions with anyone that you met there.
Um, I got there because my friend and flatmate Judith, who was my closest friend in college,
Hmm.
had already moved to Chicago, and she had the job of research secretary at the counseling center. And that is how I got to know some of the people. And when I first met Gene, she left Chicago to go home to her parents' home in Indiana because she hadn't finished her degree and she wanted to get it finished. So I was offered the job. I'd got to know everybody there. They offered me the job, and I went to work there and got to know everybody. They were all lovely people. I think they were all existentialists, actually. I mean, the client-centered therapists, Rogerian,
Hmm.
um, but so many of them seem to be um, existentialists. And I think it seems to me, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that existential therapy and what's now known as person-centered therapy have a lot more in common than any of the other modes have in common with either of them. Would you?
Yeah, definitely. I think people in the person-centered world would claim the existential tradition as part of their tradition. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right to pick up on that. Curious what you made of, like you were transcribing the tapes and stuff.
As part of my job of
Yeah.
transcribing the tapes of the therapy sessions.
What did you make of it? Did you think, what is this? Or was it exciting or interesting or
It was very interesting. I was a client on the project myself.
okay.
Unlimited therapy, 20 weeks. And I had a very nice therapist. It was a great help to me at the time. I understood what it was about.
Okay.
And I found it absolutely fascinating to do the transcribing. Um, these long, long silences and all the ums and ers, and I'd
Mhm.
wait, my fingers poised over the manual typewriter, waiting for the next. And it was very, very interesting. And I didn't know how, I mean, I knew that it was important, but it only became apparent to me much later on. When I knew what Gene had done with it,
Mhm.
how it actually was.
So did you know about focusing at the time, or I guess it hadn't really become focusing quite yet?
Gene didn't develop focusing until the late 70s, I think. And this
Hmm.
was 1959, 1960.
Yeah.
It was a long gestation for him.
Hmm.
And it came out of his philosophy. And that's one of the things I love about it, that it is philosophy based. I mean, the
Hmm.
grounding is it's very solid.
Hmm. So at that time, were people perplexed by what was happening? Did you overhear or were you a part of discussions about what was being found or not found or
Not really. I think it was before that first realization that you could tell in the first two interviews which therapies were going to be successful. And the guy who was doing that, Bill Kurtner, who was a researcher, he wasn't a therapist.
Mhm.
Uh, he was brilliant, and he was quite a good friend. And I think he was the person who said, "This is what's happening. You can tell right away um, what's happening in these first two interviews. Who's
Mhm.
going to be successful and who isn't."
Yeah.
And Dean eventually developed that into um, the difference between people who could feel what was going on inside and those who couldn't.
Hmm.
I wasn't one of them. I think I was a failure, but
I found that hard to believe.
it wasn't long enough. I mean, it was. I think I needed more time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's changed a lot. I mean, I'm certainly into my feelings now.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So any other kind of interactions with Gene that you remember from that time? I imagine people that watch this podcast would be curious about anything related to him.
Okay. Well, most of my contact with him at the center um, was quick, friendly chats on the stairs as he was bounding up and down them on his way to see somebody or do something. Um, I liked him enormously. I mean, we got on very well, but I really didn't know him well.
Mhm.
But I did have some contact with him outside the center
Mm.
because Judith, my friend and flatmate, was very friendly with his then wife, Fran.
Mhm.
And they came to supper with us a couple of times. And it's almost 70 years ago, and I don't remember very much of our conversations, but I've got a really vivid visual memory of Gene sitting cross-legged. Oh, there's Elliot.
Yes.
I wanted to meet Elliot. Of Gene sitting cross-legged in one of our cheap woven basket chairs,
Uh,
smoking.
yes.
And he did talk a bit about his background, how he'd escaped with his family from Vienna in 1939 when the Nazis came to power. And I felt a connection with him on that account because of my own family background. My grandparents, both sets, were refugees from the Russian pogroms. And then I felt another connection with him later on, not very much later on, only a few months later, when I met my husband, Klaus, who had the same background. He escaped from Berlin to England via Holland in the same year. And they were both very, very lucky. I mean, that was just about the last moment that you could get out.
Yeah. Yeah, that strikes me as a very potent kind of history to share with someone.
Mm. It was. It wasn't the end of his, that history. He came to England where there was great fear of invasion. And at that point, the tabloid press cooked up a lot of fear about foreigners who were there. Very, very like now.
Yeah.
And Churchill apparently said, call it the law. And all immigrants of German extraction, whether they were Nazis or Jews or political refugees, were removed. They were sent to the Isle of Man, or they were packed off on ships to Canada or Australia.
Mhm.
Klaus was sent to Australia on what was virtually a prison ship, and the infamous Dunera. And he spent 2.5 years in internment behind barbed wire before he was released. And it was okay. He never was angry about it. He was very young. He was only 17 at the time.
Mhm.
And he was already wanted to be an artist of some kind. And there were people in the camps who were established artists who came forward and taught what they knew.
Wow.
I always think of Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, and he describes how in the extermination camps, people came and if they had something to teach, they taught it.
Mhm.
And so it was really his university, and he's always been grateful for it because he learned a lot from some very, very good people.
Mhm.
And after that, he was in the army, the Australian army, for several years, and then he went to art school before he returned to Europe. And we met in Florence, in Italy, in 1960, in September 1960.
So if I just back up a little bit, you
Rushing.
that's okay. We'll fill it in, but I'm just wondering, uh, you were at the counseling center for a couple of years?
A year and a half,
Year and a half.
from the beginning of 1959 to April 1960. Not that long.
No, and then you left just to go on with whatever came next in your life?
I thought I wanted to be a client-centered therapist, so I started doing it. My therapist said, because I had to do an introductory psych course, and my therapist said, you won't like it. It'll be all about little chicks, all
Yeah.
skin. And I said, oh, I can cope with that, but I couldn't. I really didn't like it. It wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I couldn't join the practicum at the center without doing that introduction. And so I abandoned it. I wanted to travel anyway. And I mean, I was very young. I was only 25.
Yeah.
And I sailed to England and bought a bicycle and cycled around Europe for 5 months. And I mean, it's that I think I really did want to do it, and it was an interest that stayed for the rest of my life in psychotherapy and in existential thought.
Hmm.
I read a lot at the time, and I continued with that. But my life changed because I met Klaus
Mm.
um, and moved to England to be with him. It only took a couple of days to be sure that he was the person I wanted to spend my life with.
That's remarkable.
Well, what was remarkable was that two people with no common acquaintance and living with an ocean between them should be in the same place at the same moment. It was the. Do you want to hear?
Yes, I do. I'm immediately thinking, that you recognize something in each other, or I'm curious how you would describe that certainty so quickly.
Well, we were both. It was in the Brancacci Chapel, which holds frescoes by Masaccio, which are iconic paintings of the early Italian Renaissance, which I was very interested in. And he is a painter. So that was a common interest. I had been there the week before, and I knew that if you gave the attendant a 50 lira coin, he would turn the lights on. And the lights were one naked electric bulb hanging from the ceiling, which didn't do anything at all to illuminate the chapel, which was rather dim. But I gave him, when I got in, I gave him the coin, and Klaus was already there, and he looked over at me gratefully. He said later I was too mean to do it myself. After I'd been there for about half an hour, he came over to me holding out his opera glasses, and he said, "Would you like to use these? They'll help you see better." It was very uncharacteristic of him because he was quite shy and quite diffident, and yeah, a bit withdrawn. And I don't know why he did that. I mean, he must have just liked the look of me. Anyway, they did help me see better. And when the chapel closed at lunchtime, we went out together and we spent the day together and we spent the next day together. And that was it. And the following year, I moved to London and we were together for almost 60 years. And he kept helping me to see better all his life. It was a miracle.
It's probably the kind of thing that you can't easily put into words, but I'm still curious. What was it that you, I mean, I want to say it this way, but this might not be the right way to say it. What I want to say is, what did you see in each other? But what did you feel, or what was the basis of such a clear connection so quickly established?
The first thing that comes to mind is that he took me seriously.
Mm.
I liked him and he liked me, and he was just ready to talk to me about what he was interested in.
Hmm.
I was also interested in it, but I didn't know anything like as much about it as he did.
Hmm.
And he talked to me about it as an equal. And I mean, it moved me.
Mm.
I was able to talk to him, and we were just very easy together.
Hmm.
We didn't exchange names until the following day. I mean, we just started talking and kept talking and sightseeing together. He took me to a couple of places that I hadn't been to, that he knew very well because he'd been many times before. And it was just, we would say we clicked.
Mm.
And it was mutual, and we started corresponding. And yeah, that was
That was it.
never any doubt in my mind.
Hmm.
It took longer to realize it than I did. He was 12 years older,
Hmm.
and his background was, I mean, he'd lost everything.
Yeah.
His parents, his language, his country, his liberty, very early in his life. So it took him a while.
Hmm. You moved to London to be with him?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. After a year, um, it started with a 2-week visit at Christmas, so that we could see how we got on for longer, and
Hmm.
we, um, and then he spent many, many months looking for a place for us to live. Well, I went back to America and worked, and then I came back.
So maybe if you could let us know a little bit about what your life was like then, those years living together in London and sort of how it unfolded.
Well, I found yoga in
Yeah.
70. Um, that was 10 years after I arrived, 9 years after I arrived. And I worked in publishing for more than 20 years. I worked at the London office of Oxford University Press, and I was building a little career in publishing.
Mhm.
Uh, but it wasn't, I mean, I knew I hadn't found what I really wanted to do. It was work to earn a living. And it was interesting, but it wasn't important. But then I found yoga, and I knew immediately that that was important. Um, it wasn't the postures that drew me.
Mhm.
It wasn't about doing anything. It was about being. And I felt that it opened me up to myself and also to something else that, I mean, I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I liked it and that I wanted more of it.
Mm.
And so I practiced yoga regularly for 15 or so years before I trained to teach. And I found it didn't take very long to find out that um, the connection to that something was the breath.
Mm.
It connects us with ourselves, with our inner being, and with everything else.
Yeah.
So after 15 years, I trained to teach, and I started teaching in 1987. And by that time, I'd been working in publishing for 26 years. But I knew from the first lesson that I gave that that was what I was meant to be doing.
Mhm.
And, and that continued for the rest of my life. A little bit before that time, about a year before that, I'd met the woman who became my spiritual teacher, Swami Dharmananda. And I did 5 further years of training with her in the Satyananda tradition. It's a holistic tradition which emphasizes not the postures, but breathing and meditation and simple, energizing, releasing movements for the whole body that are within the physical capacity of everybody.
Mhm.
Taught them to people in wheelchairs in care homes, and everybody can do them. They're very effective and very powerful, and they became the ground of my teaching from then on. And she was a very down to earth, very practical, very direct English woman.
Mhm.
Um, she had what I can only call powers. She saw, and she could see things in me that I didn't know about. For example, she told me not long after we met, and before I'd even taught the class, that I was going to be training teachers. And I thought, oh, um, and that's what happened. A few years later, she asked me to take over the training at her center. So knowing her put me very firmly on a spiritual path.
Mhm.
It was the most important relationship in my life apart from Klaus. That was really what determined the direction of my teaching from then on.
That's interesting. It strikes me as um, a lineage that maybe is a little more conducive to kind of focusing, or maybe the spirit of a client-centered way of working. It still has a similar ethos somehow.
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
Um, also, uh, teaching with a lineage behind me was marvelous.
Mhm.
And you're not just out there doing something
Yeah,
new. There's a very solid
yeah.
back, very solid lineage that goes back thousands of years, if you like.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and I really appreciated that.
Yes.
And that was, as I say, that determined how I went on. And what really cemented that direction was having breast cancer in 1993.
Mm.
That was, well, there's quite a lot to say about that. I had been uh, meditating. I've been doing meditation practices for a very long time, and that was now essential. Uh, and there are a lot of meditation practices that engage the mind so completely that thoughts and feelings are prevented from arising. But that wasn't what I needed. I needed a practice that would allow them to arise.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that in the breath, in breath awareness. It is the foundation of meditation practices in all spiritual traditions. And I I worked out a practice for myself that was based on a more complex and longer practice in the Satyananda tradition called Antarmauna, which means inner silence. And I would just sit, grounded myself, and tried to be as stable as possible to make it safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I would watch my breath, and I would watch the feelings and the thoughts as they came up, and acknowledge them, and just let them be there. And that, I mean, I now think, looking back on that, was not dissimilar to focusing.
Mm-hmm.
It had a lot in common because it was a way of welcoming the scariest feelings and acknowledging them as part of myself. I didn't have to do anything with them. Just acknowledging them and accepting them and letting them be there was enough.
Yeah.
I was very frightened. I was scared of death. I was scared of cancer itself. And that fear brought me to prayer for the first time in my life. One night when I couldn't sleep and I was trying and failing to meditate, I was just overwhelmed by my fears.
Yeah.
I asked God for help, and the help came. And it came instantly, and it came as an understanding that cancer was going to be a transformative experience, that I would go through it, that I would learn whatever it had to teach me. And instantly, I stopped pushing against the experience and turned towards it, and began looking at death. And I did that for, quite a long time, at least a year. And it was like looking over the edge of a precipice.
Mm-hmm.
And the journal that I kept at that time became the raw material for my book.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was my story, but it was also a practical book, including practices
Mm-hmm.
that I thought could help people who were dealing with the challenge of cancer.
Can I just ask a question? It's a very uh, poignant and deep time in your life, it sounds like, and to bravely face what you were afraid of and to contemplate, it sounds like, quite openly, mortality and death and what it meant to you. I'm wondering if what happened for you during that time, if you've carried it forward in any way, if it's had an impact in how you've lived since then.
Yes, it never left me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've always tried to keep my eye on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It became something I just thought was very, very important, to look at the reality of things as they were. and acknowledge them,
Yeah.
accept them. I can't say that I always did it, but I felt it was very important to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's something, it sounds to me like it became something you could keep calling yourself back to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my teaching moved on, and I began teaching people who had cancer.
Okay.
Asked to do that by the Yoga Therapy Center. Robin Monroe was a research scientist who was the director, and he was passionate about exploring the effects of yoga practice on people with serious health conditions and wanted to include yoga. So I started there, and I did that for several years. And then I was almost ready to start cutting down a bit when I was 71. And the British Wheel of Yoga asked me to develop a training course for yoga teachers who were drawn to doing what I was doing. And that was very rewarding. I did that for 10 years. And it was very satisfying because people who took the course, many of them did go out and begin teaching people who were dealing with the challenge of cancer. And it was the end of my teaching because at that point, Klaus began to develop vascular dementia. And I took care of him for 5 years until he died in 2019. And during that time, I lost a lot of what I gathered during all those years of yoga and meditation and being with Klaus.
Mm.
It was traumatic and it was heartbreaking
Yeah.
because every day I watched him lose a little bit more of himself. And by 2017, he needed all of my time and care. And I had to let go of the training course, which was a real loss. I mean, I'd been teaching for 30 years and it felt like it identified me and it felt like I'd lost a part of myself. And I had.
Hmm. You're filling in what happened next, which I appreciate hearing. You went through this very difficult experience with your husband, and I'm wondering when you learned focusing or when you came back across it, because it's not an easy thing to find, really.
Yeah, you can have found it. After the 5 years of trauma and 5 years of isolation,
Yeah.
after I started building a new life, lockdown happened. And so I was isolated again, and I just stayed isolated. I thought it would be a good space to process
Hmm.
years, but it was damaging. I never came out of isolation and I never recovered. And a lot of other things happened. I broke my femur, I needed knee replacement surgery. And at the end of 2024, I was in hospital for several weeks with an infection. And when I came out, I just couldn't get myself going again. I'd lost the whatever it was I had that had always enabled me to come back from setbacks. And I started thinking about all the things that were going to happen between now and the time I died. And I thought, well, I'd really just rather skip those and get to the end. And that really frightened me.
Hmm.
And so I knew it was time to get help. And I Googled for an existential therapist in my area. And I found Jonathan Hall, who lives around the corner from me. He'd asked me to send you his regards.
Okay.
And I've been working with him for almost a year and a half now. And one day, for some reason, I started Googling people I'd known in the past. And I found Gene and saw that he'd become an eminent philosopher and that he developed something called focusing. And I read the book and I thought that sounds like what I've been doing all my life.
Hmm.
Um, and so I started practicing and immediately became really, really interested in it. I read some of the books and I decided it would be good to have a mentor. And John suggested I contact you for advice, and you suggested Sarah Hopkins. That was a great connection to make. And I've been working happily with her for 6 months now. I've become much more interested in the listening side,
Mm.
partly helps me to listen to myself when I'm focusing alone, which is what I mostly do. And it's given me, it's been a revelation after decades of working with the body in yoga to discover that through Gene's work that the body is a container of knowledge of everything we've ever experienced, and we can access that knowledge. So it's given me a new dimension to my understanding.
Does it fit in well with all of the other things that you've kind of learned along the way, like especially the yoga tradition?
Yes, very much so. Um, the breath is always my lead in.
Mm-hmm.
I follow the breath, and it takes me to a place inside myself where something may um, something may come, a feeling or an image, or words, and that may um, open something else up. And sometimes that doesn't happen. And if it doesn't, then a space is still opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just happy to be in that space
But your way in is to follow the breath.
always.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I mean, it works physically. You know, if you follow the breath through the nostrils and down into the throat and down into the lungs, I mean, it's a way of getting inside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rather than just saying go inside.
Mm-hmm.
That takes you there, and that I mean that is, yes, it does fit in with everything I've done, and it's kind of a coming full circle
Mm-hmm.
to rediscover Gene and his work almost 70 years after working at the center and knowing him.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. And I'm thinking not only Gene, but in some way, you found your own university of life through into client-centered approaches. If you think of focusing as within the client-centered, it's like you skipped over the official version and found a more real version.
Yes, yes, I haven't thought of it that way, but absolutely.
Yeah, I'm taking that from France, um, Sandbergen, who talks about the official world and the
Mm,
real world.
mm.
And I think what you've described is a very good example of that, how the official world can stop you cold and you have to find a real way through life.
Yes, and I think everybody has to find that way for themselves.
Hmm.
I was lucky to find yoga.
Yeah.
I was lucky to have a teacher who guided me in the right direction. When um, when I told her about my fears when I had cancer, she said, my fear of death. She said, "You're not going to die now. You haven't finished the work that God put you here to do." And when I was beating myself up about what I might have done to cause it or what I didn't do to avoid it,
Hmm.
get that. All that matters now is what you do with this experience, how you use it.
Hmm.
And that was a touchstone for me for the rest of my life. It's guided me.
Yeah.
Um, you know, things happen and you don't know why they happen and there's no reason for them, but you learn what you can from them and then use whatever you've learned.
Yeah.
And that was, yeah, that just guided me through the rest of my life. It was,
Hmm. Yeah. Rather than what caused this, what can I learn from this?
yeah, yes. I've tried to do that um, all the time. Where I missed it was the experience of caring really was traumatic.
Mm.
And I lost it then. I didn't learn anything from it. I just, in the end, I just disintegrated.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long-lasting trauma, and it was followed by the inevitable disconnection and dissociation.
Yeah.
And during those 10 years, I lost track of it all. I
Mm-hmm.
lost track of myself, and I lost so much of what I had considered was me.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my meditation practice. After 3 therapy sessions, though, I got it back. I mean, therapy has been, it pulled me straight back into life
Mm-hmm.
out of the despair that I was in. And because it offered me connection, which was what I desperately needed. I'd lost the ability to connect. I was trying really hard to reconnect with friends I'd neglected,
Yeah.
make new friends, and I just couldn't do it. I'd lost that ability, and I wasn't even interested in doing it. But I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I needed connection, and that was what therapy offered, that and the relationship. And that was enough to just
Mm-hmm.
put me straight back into life. And I started reclaiming and reconnecting
Mm-hmm.
um, with all the stuff I'd lost.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't lost forever. It was kind of dormant or something. It needed to be revived.
I felt that it was lost forever, and I was very, very unhappy about it. Uh,
Yeah.
and I mean, as soon as I came into therapy, I formulated that as as a goal, to find all the lost parts of myself and
Mm-hmm.
reconnect with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've been doing. It's been preparation for my death because I'm still looking over that precipice, and I'm much closer to it now than I was then. Um, but it's brought more life.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm interested in my life again
Yeah.
and things. And it's led to all kinds of connections with older friends and new friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it's a gift of extra time that I've been given. And I'm just very, very grateful for it. And focusing has been a very big part of it.
Yeah. I'm curious what's coming next.
I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
if I live long enough, and if I teach again, I think it will be focusing that I want to teach. It's been suggested that I teach a small meditation class, and I could do that because I have a group of um, students that were with me for a long time and have made friends, and they would be up for that. But I don't want to teach something that I've given them everything that I had to give a
Mm-hmm.
long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't do it now as well as I did it then. Um, but I could teach them focusing once I'm able. That is what I would like to do. Um, but I want to know it better myself first. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm very new to it still. It's given me some very deep experiences. Um, I sometimes get very, very strong, clear images um, that are complete surprise, but that take me somewhere that I need to go, and sometimes lead to shifts. And it's always a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I keep getting surprised. Like a few weeks ago, when I had another cancer scare, I surprised myself after the first shock wore off by being very calm about it. And that really puzzled me. And I asked my body, what do you know about this? And it immediately said that it remembered all it had learned 30 odd years ago when it was going through cancer, and it didn't need to learn it again. I mean, I thought that I'd just be back in the fear state, but I wasn't. Uh, it was such a surprise. I mean, I
Yeah.
couldn't hold it up. I didn't impose words
Mm-hmm.
on it. It was a complete surprise. And I thought, well, that's why I'm relatively calm now. So It's spiritual practice for me.
I wanted to ask about that. When you say spiritual, what does that mean to you? How do you understand that aspect of life?
As connection with myself and with everything else. Focusing gives us that connection. The body opens up a way of connecting with that something that we might be seeking but don't know that we're seeking. Experiences of wholeness, of oneness, of connection. And I don't see any separation between body and spirit. We're whole beings. And focusing is a way of understanding what Gene said, that the body is connected to the whole universe, vast system, and focusing. It's a way of understanding that and really knowing that we are part of it all, whatever we call it, whatever name we give it, whether it's the universe or the divine or God, whatever we call it. The body and focusing is a way into it.
I love that idea that the body and spirit are not different. This is just a thought that occurred to me. I'm thinking back to all those years ago when you were working at the counseling center and Gene was running around on the stairs or doing whatever he was doing. Does it seem like anything to you to think back to that person and think, oh my goodness, he had all this stuff going around inside of him, thinking about all of this, and I didn't even know at the time?
Absolutely. Yes, I do. I do think about that. I just think it's absolutely amazing because he did.
Yeah.
He had it. He had it in him all his life, I
Yeah.
think.
Mm.
And I think about it a lot.
Mm.
And I wish I'd known him better.
Mm-hmm.
Because as it's turned out, all these years later, he has become very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe in some way you knew him better than you knew him.
Possible.
Yeah.
It's certainly possible. I remember his eyes, and I can, if I close my eyes, I don't even have to close my eyes, but I can see him sitting in our living room in Chicago with his legs crossed, smoking in that basket chair, and I get such a feeling of awe.
Mm-hmm.
This great man was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It definitely radiated from him, didn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
His wife, Fran, pulled his leg a lot. She was very intelligent, very bright, and very kind of, I mean, she just wouldn't take him too seriously. I don't know whether he wanted to be taken seriously by her, but she pulled his leg a lot. And that was fun to watch.
She enjoyed teasing him.
He enjoyed teasing him, yeah. And I don't think he minded being teased. I mean, yeah, it was nice to watch them together.
Okay, I'm just aware of the time. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention, or anything else that you're working on that you think people might be interested in?
I wanted to talk to you about the felt sense
Mm.
because I don't know about the felt sense. I know that I feel um, what I think it is, but it isn't localized. I don't feel it in my throat or my solar plexus.
Mm-hmm.
If I feel it, I feel it with my whole being, or it could be outside me or everywhere or anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know, I don't know how to think about it. And I don't know whether it matters,
Mm-hmm.
um, whether I actually know what it is, because I'm quite sure that focusing is working for me, as new as I am to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know about felt sense.
Yeah.
So I did want to ask you about that.
There's a lot of, I think, quite traditional ways of answering that. Um, but instead, I would be tempted to say, first of all, um, no one can tell you how it should be for you. This whole emphasis on the felt sense might be a slight wrong direction somehow for the way you experience yourself and the world around you. So that's the first thing I want to say. The
Hmm.
second thing is if you think of an important moment in your life, if you just bring one to mind, and if you ask yourself, what did I really feel about that?
Mm.
Does anything come in your body?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you, not always.
yeah. I would say that's what's traditionally called a felt sense.
Okay.
I remember Gene once saying he would always start with a situation and he wouldn't just kind of go down into the body as regularly. He was much more inclined to, start with an issue, a situation, or a concern and invite the body to make a holistic feeling about it. And I
Hmm.
think that's what he understood as a felt sense, the way the body and the situation were one.
I do that quite often. I have a subject, I mean, an issue, an agenda that I want to find out about. So yes,
Mhm.
yes. And sometimes I start with no agenda.
Yeah,
I want to see what's there.
yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't always work. I mean, sometimes, as I said, I nothing comes,
Hmm.
but then I just stay with my breath, and it becomes a meditation practice, and
Yeah.
it's okay either way. I did get very impatient with myself at first when nothing came, but that doesn't happen anymore. I just,
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, what could you be with that?
yeah, I just don't. I don't pay any attention to being impatient anymore. Learning to live with uncertainty.
Yes. Thank you very much. I really appreciated talking to you. And it feels significant that we got to do this just before this big conference in Vienna that's kind of celebrating Gene.
Well, thank you, Greg. I've so enjoyed it, and it's been so lovely to meet you and be here.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye for now. Bye.